Now to get that about section built, we'll do the same thing we've been doing in the previous episode, where we create a new component in the home page directory. I'm going to close these additional open folders, and inside the home page directory, we'll create a new file, and we're going to call this file a home about.js. Go ahead and write RAFCE, and this will create a functional component for the home about section. Now I'll build out the styled components as well as that accordion section, and then we'll work on styles and then add interactivity to it. In the JSX, we'll get rid of this div and we'll call the parent home about section. Inside the home about section, we have a container. Can't do auto imports, I guess. So we'll do container. Oh, there we go. That worked. But we need that. And then inside the container, we'll have a flex. Will it bring in flex? It didn't bring in flex. So if I do flex and then / okay, flex like that. Nope. Flex auto import. There we go. VS Code is insane. Inside flex, we're going to have an about, and inside the about, we'll have an h2. And now I'm going to copy and paste the content. You can pause the video or go to the for website, or even just put your own content in. I'll save to format it, and underneath the h2, we're going to use a p tag, and p tag is also going to have additional content. So I'll paste that in and save, and it will format for me. Now that's going to do it for this about component. The other component we're working on is the services component, and the services component will have an h3 that will say services. And then underneath the h3, we're going to have an accordion component, which we'll make outside of this home component. So I will just call this accordion, and we could use a self-closing tag. For the accordion, we can make that right now, actually. So const accordion is equal to an anonymous function. And inside the accordion, we're going to return an accordion that we're going to build with Framer Motion. So we'll do a React fragment tags, and then we'll have accordion header. Let me scroll down a bit so we can see better. And inside the accordion header, we'll have an accordion icon and then a span tag. And inside the accordion icon, we're not going to use an SVG, but we will use a span tag, and then we'll make the icon in CSS. There will be 2 span tags for this accordion icon. And then while still being in the accordion header, we're going to write a title. So for this one, I will just say, hello YouTube, and this will represent the header or the accordion header, and then inside each accordion header it will have content in there. So outside of the accordion header, we'll create an accordion content. So I'll use accordion icon and just get rid of the icon part, and then inside the accordion icon we'll have a span tag, which will have different results. So for this example, we'll list out some Formula 1 drivers. We'll say Kimi, Lewis, Leclerc, I don't know if that's how you spell it, but we've got 3 accordion content or 3 span tags inside the content. Now this isn't the final data. The final data will be stored in an array, and we'll build that out when the time comes. But right now we're just focused on using simple data and then styling out the components. So let's save this now so that we could format the code. And then we'll jump into the styles, and we will open up the home styles. Scroll all the way to the bottom, and let's create a section for that about. So we'll do about, and then we'll also create another section for accordion. Now I'm going to split these to 2 different views because I just need to get all the names correctly. So I'll do export const home about section, and this will be a styled div, and let's copy and paste that and do it for the other components we need to build. So we have about, let's scroll down a bit. After about, we do have services, and then for the accordion section, let's do accordion header. We have accordion icon, as well as the accordion content. Now we just need to import these styled components that we created, and we'll do it like so. So import, using destructuring, let's just name out all the components. So I'm just going to copy and paste here because I don't feel like writing. So we got the home about, And then we've got services. We've got accordion header, accordion icon, and then the accordion content. So these are all being imported from the home styles. Let's go ahead and save this. And then let's render out the home about component onto the index page. In the index.js, we can copy, actually, let's stop copying. We'll just write home about, and let's get that imported. Actually, let's see if the auto import's working. So home about, it's not, I guess. I'll import home about from components, homepage, and we'll import that from home about. Let's go ahead and save this and preview. And so let's change the theme because I think it's going to be better on a white background. But when we scroll, we've got the two components we've built previously. And then at the very bottom, we have these two sections. So we've got the left side, which is sort of the about section, and then the right side is the services, which is going to represent the accordion. Okay, so this looks good so far. Let's work on the styles, and then we'll add interactivity through frame or motion. And to top it all off, we'll add the animations for scrolling. Let's go back in our project. We can close out of index.js, and we don't need this split view anymore. So we'll start from top all the way to bottom. And the very top one is the home about section. So let's go ahead and add styles to that. For the home about section, we usually add margin bottoms to the parent. But since this is the last component before our footer, we might just add the margin to the footer rather than the home about section. So we're going to leave this commented out for now. And if we don't style it, we can get rid of the styled component and then just make it a regular HTML div. For the about section, we're going to set the width to 100%. Inside the about component, we have an H2, which will have the width set to 60%, a font size of 2.3 rem. Our font weight is going to be set to 400. The margin dash left. The margin left will be set to 124 pixels. And our color, like all the other colors in the text we use, we're going to set that to the props.theme.text. And then this will be interchangeable due to whatever theme the user will choose. Now for the p tag, it will be a sibling to the H2. The max width on the p tag is going to be set to 440 pixels. Let's scroll down a bit. Our font size will be 1 rem. Our margin left will be set to 124 pixels. And the color is going to be exact same for our H2, which will have the props.theme.text. Let's save this and preview. Scroll down a bit. So we've got it perfectly aligned with the not humble. Since they're all in containers, they would reach out to wherever this video part is, but a lot of our content has that added margin of 124 pixels. So that's why you start to see the consistency. When you scroll all the way down, they are following the container, but then content here is 124, the not humble is 124, and also the content here is 124. Let's go back in our project, and I did miss a line height. Looking at the styles currently doesn't look all that good. So our line height is going to be set to 1.6 rem. Let's save that and then preview. So that looks a bit better. Now let's focus on the services section. We can skip this services div as well. It's mainly used sort of to separate the about and the services because we're using Flexbox. And looking at it now, we might not even need to use a styled component. We could just replace this with a div. And if it requires motion, we'll make it a motion component. But in our case, we're not going to style it right now. In the accordion header, let's set the width to 100%. Our color is going to be that red color. So I will copy paste the props and then just change text to red. Our height will be set to 32 pixels. The display is going to be flex. We're going to align items to center. The font weight will be 600. Our font size is going to be set to 1.15 rem. And for our margin, we're going to have a margin top and bottom of 8 pixels, but for the left and right, we'll leave it as 0. Let's save that and preview what we've got. So the hello YouTube represents our accordion header, and then the text on the bottom represents the content that resides in the header. Let's go back to our project, and then we can work on this icon now. The icon is going to have a display set to flex. We're going to align items to center. Our height will be 100%. Our margin dash right will be set to 8 pixels. And then we've got a span tag that's nested inside the accordion icon, which will ultimately represent the icon itself. So we've got a width set to 16 pixels, a height set to 4 pixels, a background, which is going to be the props.theme.red. So we'll do background and set that to red. Let's scroll down a bit. And then we're going to add a transition on this. And the transition is going to be 0.1 second, and the ease is going to be ease in and out. Ease in, out. Not and out. Okay, whatever. Continuing on. Let's save that actually, and let's take a look if we've got the icon set. So we do have the icon set. It's going to be this minus sign, and then when we click on it, it will turn to sort of like a up arrow or like a drop down arrow, if you can imagine that. If you looked at the mock when we started, you know what I'm talking about. No need to explain myself. So the accordion content is going to have styles as well. The overflow is going to be set to hidden, and we're adding padding left. The padding left is going to be 40 pixels. And then inside the accordion content, we do have a span tag, which will have a width set to 100%. Our margin is going to be 8 pixels, and then the top and bottom is going to be, actually, no, sorry. The top and bottom is going to be 8 pixels, and the left and right is going to be 0. The font size on this one is going to be 0.875 rem, which if our HTML or our body or our entire website's default size is 16 pixels, the 8.75 rem will ultimately equal to 14 pixels. The color is going to be our theme red, so let's set that like so. And then it's going to have a display set to block and a font weight of 300, like that. So let's save this and preview. Okay, cool. So we've got this section worked on and it looks pretty good. I think that we need to align the services to the top, and there's an attribute that's already been defined for flex. So if we say align top like so, it should align it to the top, but it didn't. I wonder if we even built that. So let's go to global styles real quick. Let's look for flex. We've got space between, flex end, align top, which align items to top. Okay, so it should align items to top. Did I spell it correctly? Shall I copy and paste? Let's refresh. Nope. Okay, so something is wrong here and we need to fix it. So let's look at our project real quick. We've got the flex here, and then we've got about and services. So what is the issue then? Is it probably the height that's just not long enough? But that doesn't make sense. How do I inspect element in Firefox? Because I never do it. So about, and then this one, and then flex. Align items to center. Why is it aligning items to center? Let's go to home styles, or no, global styles. And so we're aligning items by center as default. What if I think we need to write important. Let's save this, and then do we need to refresh? I don't see why we need to refresh. Nope. This is lovely, I love it. Flex, what are we doing? Okay, so I just realized the mistake that I did. When we align items, we don't align items by top. We do the following, and let's get the drop down so that we can see what we're talking about. So align items, and so we'll use flex start to align it to the top, not top. I don't know what I was thinking. Flex start, flex end, and then center. So now if we use flex start, it will push it to the top just like we want it to. Okay, now that's perfect. So moving on then, let's close out of the inspect. You guys just saw some crazy debugging. We're going to add the content to make this kind of look a lot better than it is right here. So it's not going to be hello YouTube and then whatever. So scroll to the very top, and then let's create an array. And we're going to call this const accordion IDs. and it'll be an array with objects inside of it. So I'm going to make one object that contains the data, but then there is a total, I believe, of 5 accordions or 4. But I'm going to write them all out. Then you could pause the video and just kind of copy paste what I have, or you could add your own. I'm not going to write every single one because it's just going to be way too I'm not going to write every single one because it's just going to be way too time consuming. So we'll go over one object and then you guys can just copy and paste after I pause the video. So ID is going to be 0. Our title is going to be pre-production. And then we've got results. So the results go as following. We've got creative. This is why I don't want to type. Creative, development. And then we've got writing. And then after that, we've got storyboards, art direction, and then creative direction. This company has a lot to offer, huh? Location scouting, as well as casting. So you see the idea. Make sure we add a comma, not a semicolon there. But the idea is that each accordion content or header has its own ID. We've got this ID 0, which is the title, or the header will be pre-production, and then the results when we open pre-production will be the following. So following this schema, you can just continue on and make more. I'm going to pause it here, and then in the next frame, it will have all 4, and I'll break that down as well. Okay, so boom, just like magic, I've got all the other objects. If you want to pause and then just copy and paste everything I have, or frankly, just go to the repo and in the master branch, you can copy this data. Ideally, when we're working on a production project, you don't want this living inside this home.js. We can create a data folder and store any necessary data there, but not going to do that because I'm feeling lazy. We'll leave it in the Accordion IDs, and then let's map through the data so that we can display it in the accordion section and then actually make the accordion work. Let's scroll down a bit. In the place where we're rendering this accordion component, we're going to map through the data. So let's get rid of this accordion, and then we will say accordion IDs.map. And then using the arrow function, we're going to pass in details as well as index. We'll use an arrow function, and this arrow function is going to return the accordion component. Let's save that, and since we're not passing any data, it's going to render that accordion component with the Hello YouTube and the F1 drivers 4 times. So let's look, we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. But to get the data dynamic now, we're going to have to pass in details as a prop. So let's first say key. Our key is going to be index. Our details are going to be details, and we're going to add more props, but for now we'll just leave it as index and details. Let's scroll down to the accordion and let's pass in details, and then we could replace the following. So hello YouTube is going to have details.title, and then for our span tag, we're going to need to map through details and return the results because it is an array. If we scroll to the very top, we've got a accordion's ID array, we've got an object, and then inside that object, we've got another array, which is results. So we're going to have to map again. Let's copy, or not copy, but just delete everything inside the accordion content. And then here we could return details.map, and we can kind of do the same thing we did earlier. So we'll pass in results and details, and this will be a arrow function. So we are returning a span tag, and inside the span tag, we are going to return the result. Now the span tag is going to require us to have a key. So each key will be unique to the index. So I said details here, but I was supposed to say index. So let's preview this now. The index is going to be a number, which will be the key. We got an error, and details.map is not a function. And that's because it's supposed to be details.results.map. So we'll do .results.map, and instead of passing in results as our parameter here, we're going to just say result, so that we can kind of distinguish what the results and the results is going to be. Results is everything, right? So results is this entire array, but then result is going to be one individual string inside our array. So let's scroll to this section, save it, and let's preview. We have to refresh, scroll to the bottom, and then we've got everything looking perfect. all the accordions are open, which we don't want. So using state, we'll track which one should be open, which one shouldn't. And then for the animations, we'll use framer motion. Let's go back in our project and start at the home about. So we're just going to create state for kind of defining which item is expanded. So we'll call this expanded and set expanded. And we'll be using useState. And for our useState, we're returning a number. Now this is key because it isn't just any random number. I kind of gave away the answer, I said key, but this is going to be the key of which accordion is currently expanded. So each accordion will have a key, like we have it right here in the index. So whatever the number here is, whether it's 0, 1, 2, or 3, that accordion will then open. So we'll pass expanded and set expanded down to the accordion by passing it as a prop here. So we'll say expanded is going to equal expanded, and then set expanded will equal the set expanded, like so. We can now access expanded, set expanded through our accordion. So we'll say expanded and set expanded, like so. Now what we'll do is we'll create a variable called isOpen. So const isOpen, this will tell us what is open. And this is going to equal the details.id, which we defined up here. So all of our IDs have a unique ID, which is 0, 1, 2, and 3. So isOpen is going to equal to details.id, and then we'll have the 3 equal signs, which is going to represent expanded. So isOpen is going to return a Boolean, and the Boolean is a true or false. And that's why if the details.id is equal to expanded, and so what expanded represents, like I mentioned, is 0. That's what our expanded is. And then the details.id represents the current ID. So if expanded is currently set to 0 and it matches details.id, it will return true, opening only the ID with 0. Now to see this in action, what we'll do is for our accordion content, we are going to hide everything that isn't equal to the isOpen. To do that, we're going to need to set a motion component for our accordion content. Let's go to the home styles and then turn this div to a motion.div. And now we can use framer motion for the accordion content. We can say the key is just going to be content for now. And we're going to have an animate, which is going to determine the height of the accordion content. So we can say height, and then here's where we're going to use that isOpen. So height is open, we'll set it to 100%, else we'll set it to 0. Let's save this, and I forgot to add that question mark, which is in front of the isOpen to make it a ternary operator. And we're going to get an error because we did not bring in useState, so let's do that. And we might as well bring in a useEffect since we're going to use that as well later. So let's save this and then preview. So you could see now that only pre-production is open because expanded, that state that we had, is set to 0 and it matches the pre-production ID, which is 0. If I want to open, for example, the post-production, I'm going to have to switch this expanded to a 2, and this will open up post-production and close pre-production. If I want to do the same for video production, I'll just switch it to a 1, and also pay attention to the transition that occurs, which is going to be the default transition of framer motion. We will change that because you guys already know about how I feel about the default easing that framer motion provides. So now this is a 1, this will open up video production, and we didn't do it in time. So let's set it to 3, and then this will open up audio post-production. Perfect. So we've gotten that taken care of. Now let's go back and find out how we can click to open and close the following accordions. So let's go back in our project now. And I'm going to set the default to 0 just because I want the first accordion to be opened by default. So actually before we do the on-click behavior, let's make these span tags animate when we open and close them. So this will require us to make these motion components. So we'll do motion.span. And they're going to be rather identical. So I will do one and then copy paste the other and then make some minor tweaks. So for animate, we'll do the following. We'll say rotate is open. We'll set it to 0. Otherwise, we'll set it to 45. And we also want to edit the X position. X is going to be set to 3. Let's save this and then let's take a look. So something's not right. Motion is not imported because it's only imported in the home styles, but to import motion, we'll go ahead and say import motion from framer-motion. Let's save this. And then you see that everything that isn't clicked on or active has that left span leading to sort of like a drop down. But let's work on the right one now. We can scroll down and right here. So let's get rid of the second motion span just because I want to copy and paste this. And we'll want to turn the 45 and the 3 to negative values. So the degree in which the tilt will occur will be at a negative, and as well as the X position, it will be moving towards the right. So let's save this. And then now actually the X position will move to the left because it is negative. So now the arrows are looking like drop downs. And then when we click on them and they become active, they will turn into this line. Okay, that's perfect. So now we can work on the click events so that we can open and close them. So for the accordion header, we will have an onClick here, which will return an anonymous function. And what it's going to do is it's going to set expanded to whichever details ID we've selected. So we'll do the following. We'll say is open. So if this is true, it's going to set it to false. Otherwise, it's going to set the following to the details.id. Let's save that and take a look now. So when we click on video production, it will open up video production. When we click on pre-production, it will open up pre-production, and it will close everything else that isn't expanded. Okay, perfect. I don't like the transition, right? So let's fix that. The transition is all the same. So I'll add it to 1 and just copy paste. So we'll add it to the motion span. We'll say the transition, our duration is going to be set to 0.2 and our easing will be set to the following. 0.6, 0.05, negative 0.01, and a 0.9. We can copy and paste this transition for the other span tag, as well as for the content. However, for this one, we're changing the duration to 8. Let's save that now and preview. Clicking on pre-production, you can see that the transitions now are just a lot nicer in my opinion. Let's go back to the project. And now I want to create some hover animations. This will require us to pass in that onCursor function so that we could change the cursor when we hover on these different accordions. Jump into the index.js and let's pass onCursor down to the home about. Go back to the home about section and we'll need to import the onCursor in the home about component. So we'll say onCursor. And we aren't using it in the home about components, but we are going to use it in the accordion. So let's pass the onCursor as a prop, and then we'll use destructuring to bring it into the accordion. And for the accordion header, we'll say on mouse enter. And we've done this a lot now, so you kind of can see the idea now. So on mouse enter is going to have on cursor set to hovered. And then on mouse leave, we'll just return the on cursor function. So let's take a look now. When we hover on pre-production, it tells the user, hey, that this is a link you can click. Okay, perfect. One thing I want to mention is I want to add hover effects to pre-production. I want to change the color. I also want to change the behavior of the span arrow when we hover. So let's do that. Let's go back in our project. And in the accordion section, we can create a state. We can say const hovered, and we'll say set hovered. And we'll just say use state. And as default, we're not going to be hovering, so it's going to be hovered set to false. Now, when we hover on the accordion header, we want to update the state. So we can say on hover start, and on hover start, we'll just update the state to a true or a false depending on what the current state is set to. So we'll say set hovered to the opposite of whatever hovered currently is. And we'll do the exact same thing for on hover end for when we hover off. And then for the is open, to add that animation for the arrows to open and close when we hover, we can add the following. So in front of is open, we'll add an or, and we'll say hovered. Let's save this and let's just test out if this is working. I misspelled content down here, so let's just update that. And then we also want to make sure we turn the accordion header into a motion component. So let's go to the home styles and select the style.div and turn it to motion.div. So let's save this and then preview now. And when we hover on video production, it will animate that span tag. So we close, we can do the following. Perfect. One thing we need to also do is just add animations to the accordion header. And the animation we're adding is just changing the color for when we hover as well. So really, we're just going to write while hover. We'll do the following. So we'll update the color if it is the opposite of is open. And then we'll add double ampersands. We'll say current theme is equal to the dark theme. Then we'll want color to represent a white color, FFF. And I think with frame motion, they are requiring you to use all 6 characters. So let's do 3 F's, F is 3 F's. And then we'll make it black if it's not. So that's 7, that's 6, okay. This is going to require us to import current theme. So let's do the following. We'll do const current theme, and we'll say use global, not dispatch, but we're just going to use the global state context. And then we're going to need to import the use global state context. So we'll say import use global state context. And we're going to import this from context / global context. Let's save this and preview now. So when I hover on video production, it will turn the text of video production to black, pre-production to black, post-production. Okay, perfect. And if we change the theme to a black theme and scroll to the bottom, it will turn it to white for when we hover. Actually, it doesn't, but then it turns it to black for when it is selected. That's something we need to take a look at. Okay, so in that case then, if we go to the home about section, scroll to the bottom, we're saying, okay, we can get rid of this is open then, right? Because if we save it, and when we hover, it's white. When we hover again, it's white. So there's no need for that is open. Okay, perfect. And the reason why I am allowing us to hover on it if it is open, because we do have the option to close it. Okay, so that's the reason why we're able to hover on it for when it is open. Okay, cool. So let's go back in our project now. And the last thing we're adding is that scroll animation. So let's scroll to the very top and let's import the following. We'll first import use animation from framer motion, and we'll also need to import the intersection observer. So we'll say import use in view, and we're just going to import this from react-intersection observer. So we've already built this twice before in the previous episode, so there's no need to just write everything again. I'll just copy and paste. We can open up the home content, split them up into 2 different views, and I'll still explain what's going on, but we don't necessarily need to just write everything out again. So we need to first use the hook. Oopsie. So I'll copy this const animation and I'll paste it right here just so that we can start using the use animation hook. And we also need to use the use in view hook as well. So we'll paste that in here, but we'll change content ref to about ref. And this will require us to use a ref for the about section. So we'll say the following: ref is going to be about ref. And then our use effect, which we already imported in the home about, will have the following. So we'll paste that in like so. And what this is doing is if in view is true, meaning if we have reached the view, we are going to start this visible animation, which is not yet defined, but it can be found in our variants. So let's copy the variants, the initial and the animate, and paste it into our home about section. Paste it like so. So when in view is true, meaning that we are in view of our component, it's going to start this visible animation, which will set the opacity to 1, bring up the component to a position of Y, which initially it was set to 72, and then have some additional easing on there. We'll turn the home about section to a styled component in the home styles.js. So look for home about section, which is right here. And we can turn this to a motion.div. Now I did make this a styled component because I thought that we were going to add some styles to it initially, but you can always change it because turning this to a div with the class name of home about section and making it a motion component works just as well. So let's save this and test out our project. We did get an error because home about red is not defined. I wrote red instead of ref. So let's fix that. Save it, go to our project, refresh our project, scroll down, and perfect. So it isn't looking all that good because we don't have a margin bottom. So we might as well add this margin bottom, and then we can get rid of it for when we build the footer, because the footer is going to have a margin top. So we'll add a margin bottom of 200 pixels here, and let's refresh again. And so now when we scroll down, we get that, the not humble section, and then our accordion, which when we click, opens up like a charm. Okay, so that's gonna do it for this episode. In the next episode, we'll build the footer as well as add the same footer to our navigation. Okay, so if you're excited about that, look forward to the next episode. If you did enjoy, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. And as always, have a wonderful day.